This is Contractor Sense with Ruth King.
Welcome to Contractor Sense. Here you discover ideas, tactics, news, and information that matters to your contracting business and you. I'm your host, Ruth King. This episode is sponsored by Profitability Movement. Google Profitability-Movement to join this community of business owners focused on building profit, increasing wealth, and giving back. Thank you for joining us. Here is how we will help your business and you today. You know you have to do something. You keep telling yourself that you need to do that thing, yet you don't do it. Why? Procrastination. Just don't feel like it. Can't get started? My guest today, Barry Moltz, gives you some of the steps to actually make the changes that you already know you need to make. Barry, welcome to Contractor Sense.
Thanks for having me, Ruth.
Great. All right. You and I have known each other how long now? A long time.
I know, a long time, yeah.
So I invited Barry on. He's written a new book called Change Master. It's how to actually make the changes you already know you need to make. And it is a phenomenal book. So for those of you who are out there procrastinating, read this book. And don't procrastinate in getting the book. Just get it, read it, and do it. So how's that for a plug for you? And it's really
I think it's great.
I gave Barry a quote for the book because it was like, I really enjoyed it and it works really, really well. So, you've been involved with small businesses. You've helped them, unlock potential. You've helped them, give them the kick in the butt that they need to. So why, just in an overview perspective, why don't we do what we need to do?
Well, for the good news, Ruth, is it's not your fault, right? It's your brain's fault. Biology says that your brain is a pattern-making machine. And for survivability, it wants to keep doing the same thing over and over again if you survived up to this point. So your brain's inclination is not to make any changes. So that's where we start.
So it's not our fault. It's our brain's fault, our subconscious fault, our medulla's fault for wanting to do pattern A and keep doing pattern A. And right. I guess until it's unproductive, right?
Right. It's the way you make sense of the world. Plus, if you have to make a change, it's a lot more work. I mean, think about when we used to drive to the office every day. We used to go the same way. And many times we didn't even know how we got there because our brain was just on autopilot. If you had to go a new way, then you had to think. It was a lot more work. And let's face it, as we age, our brains get lazy.
So you're calling us get lazier and lazier as we get older and older, huh?
I mean, listen, it's just natural. Your brain wants to survive. And if something's working and it hasn't killed you, and most people, the expression, it's better the devil you know rather than the devil you don't know. People don't want to take risks. People don't want to go into the abyss. They don't know what's going to happen with the change. That's why people stay in businesses too long, partnerships too long, and marriages for way too long.
Yep. And they put up with an employee they know is not any good for the business too long.
Exactly. When all the other employees know that person should be let go.
Yeah.
But they'd rather have somebody than nobody.
Well, they look at it, I think, what is it? A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush?
Exactly.
The statement, something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's assume that you've basically said, I got to do something. My business is in the toilet. I mean, you've pulled people out of bad business situations for many, many, many years. So, let's assume I'm one of your customers and one of your new clients, and I'm coming to you and I'm just, I have totally had it. And I'm ready to make the change. So what do we do first?
Well, I mean, the reason I talk about in the book, the motivation for writing this book is I've been doing consulting for small businesses after having mine for a lot of years. And I go in, they give me a bunch of money, and we map out all the changes, and then nothing would happen. And so I was wondering, why didn't anything happen? So I started doing research on this. So I realized, Ruth, that if people are not in enough pain, they're not going to make any changes. Most changes we make is because we can't bear to be on the current course we're on. So the first thing to make a change is to identify what's exactly the change that you want to make, call it out. And then the second step is to say, well, how am I currently doing it? And most importantly, why do I want to make the change? Why do I have to make that change now?
And then let's assume we do all of that. We talk about the pain of change, and sometimes you have to be hit between the eyes with a 2x4 before you pay attention.
At least a 2x4. Maybe something bigger.
Okay, that's cool. So, all right, we'll hit them with a brick. How's that?
Right. That's pretty good.
So they finally say, I want to make the change. I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. My husband, who is now passed on about 6 years, for about 6 years now, he had a quadruple bypass when he was 60. And he changed for a little bit and went back the old way. What does it take sometimes for people to do the changes they needed to do so that they could survive?
I have to tell you, I had a similar experience in 1995 when I was 35 years old. I started getting blurry vision, and I thought I was going blind, and it turned out that I had diabetes, and it really scared the crap out of me. And so basically, I stopped eating, and I lost 70 pounds, and that wasn't really a good solution. But that experience really scaring me really has held up for the last 25 years, really to make sure that I take care of that so that whole thing doesn't happen again. But what you have to think about, Ruth, is that what happens if you don't make that change, right? And really, what makes you uncomfortable with making the change, really call it out. Because a lot of people try to make too big a change. And so what I recommend is that people start with one very small part of the change they want to make, because big changes are even more difficult to do.
Yeah, I think, as you can map out the whole thing, on a whiteboard or however you do it, or mind map it or whatever. And then you have to kind of say, from what you're saying, all right, let's do this first.
What's the very, very first small step that you can do? Can you get a result from that small step in the next week? Can you have a mentor that will help hold you accountable to doing that first step? And if you, just because you do it, whether you succeed or fail, give yourself some kind of reward. And my reward is always French fries. That's kind of my go-to food.
So does it have to be food?
No, it could be anything. I mean, it could be, you go out to dinner, or, go on a hike.
Food.
So, but for me, French fries is kind of my go-to reward since I don't eat it every day.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Which I would, if I could.
Yeah. So it could be going on a hike. It could be going to a movie with your spouse or taking your kids someplace fun. Have you ever seen situations where people get their kids involved because their kids want to do something?
You mean get them involved in supporting their change?
Yeah, like, okay, guys, if I do this change, I'll take you to Six Flags, for example, for an afternoon. And then the kids actually, Daddy, you doing it? Mama, you doing it? Type thing.
I have, if people really want to make the change. If people really don't want to make the change, it's kind of half-hearted, they're not going to want to disappoint their kids, so they don't get their child involved. But if they really want to do it, I've seen them doing, really give themselves a reward and tell people about it. Because when you tell people you're going to make a change, when you declare you're going to do something, you're much more likely to go do it. I'm a big cyclist, so about a year ago, I declared that last summer I was going to bike across the state of Michigan. It's 150 miles in one day. And there are times where I was just training, I was saying, do I really want to do this, Ruth? But because I made the declaration, I decided I got to go do it, and I completed it. But then I was stupid enough to make a new declaration this year that I was going to bike across the state of Wisconsin, which is now 235 miles.
You go for it. All right, before we take a break, where can people get the book?
Well, you can actually still get a free copy of the book, courtesy of AT&T, at barrymoltz.com, BARRYMOLTZ.com, and we'll send it out to you.
Terrific. All right. Thanks for listening to Contractor Sense. I'm talking with Barry Moltz. We'll be right back.
Do you ever have warranty leak issues? One of Ruth King's clients did about 4 years ago. Thousands of dollars in expense and unhappy customers. She solved this problem for him, though. How? With a leak letter that every customer must sign when a service technician discovers a refrigerant leak. Once they implemented the letter, there were no more warranty leak headaches. No warranty leak callbacks. Happier customers. The surprising result was more replacement sales, too. To get a copy of the leak letter for free, just send Ruth an email at ruthking@hvacchannel.tv. That's ruthking@hvacchannel.tv.
Welcome back. Thanks for listening to Contractor Sense. I'm talking with Barry Moltz. a longtime small business consultant and author of the book Change Masters, How to Actually Make the Changes You Already Know You Need to Make. You can get a free copy of the book by going to Barry's site, Barry Moltz, BarryMoltz.com, courtesy of AT&T. So in this section, Barry, I really want to dive into the procrastination piece of it. And you talk a lot about it in the book. I call it procrastination. You call it something different, but that's in my book. That's basically what it is. So let's assume somebody's come to you. Somebody has paid you to help them follow up and everything else, and they still aren't doing it. How do you get them past that block?
Well, typically what I ask is, what is holding you back from actually doing this? You've agreed that it's better for your business or for your life or whatever it is. What still holds you back? And typically what holds them back is it's the fear of the unknown. And so then we try to map out, let's talk about all the possible things that could happen and which realistic things could happen. Or are you just dreaming up that, well, I'm afraid a meteor is going to hit the earth? And then what we try to do is we say, okay, if this change is too big because the fear of whatever's going to happen, the unknown is too large, let's do something smaller. Let's start, more at the beginning. So, for example, one of the things that I cite in the book is that people don't know how to read their financial statements. And it's overwhelming because they were never taught to read them. And unfortunately, their accountant doesn't help. So instead of learning to read all three financial statements, let's just look and see, what were the sales last month? Let's start at that one part, that one piece, and how does it compare to the previous month? Just do that. And then the next month, let's look at gross profit, or next week, or whatever it is. So let's start with something small and be patient about it and just do these iterative small changes.
Right. Yeah.
I started too big.
Yeah. I start on the bottom line. Let's look at what was the profit, the net operating
profit.
That
too, yeah.
and then we go forward from there. And I explain it really easily in the books that I've written. So we take it, like one small bite at a time. And let's talk about, okay.
Well, you know that expression, right? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Right?
Yeah.
Same kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think you hit the nail on the head with respect to the word fear, because fear is what really keeps people back a lot of times. And I think it was Mark Victor Hansen, and he probably wasn't the first one, who always talked about fear as being finding evidence against reality. And it's in your head. It's not, what's really going to happen, So what are your thoughts about fear? I mean, people are afraid of the unknown, or are they just afraid to go forward?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing, until last year, I did karate for 20 years, became a third-degree black belt. And one thing I hated for 20 years was fighting people, mostly because I was afraid I was going to hurt someone. So there was a lot of fear around that. And so what I was taught is it's okay to be afraid and do it anyways. Because I really buy into Robert Louis Stevenson's philosophy that the only way out is really through. So this idea in our culture that you shouldn't have any fear, I think is ridiculous. It's okay to be afraid, but it shouldn't hold you back from doing things. For example, I have a terrible fear of flying. And before the pandemic, I was in an airplane every single week. And so how did I adapt? Well, I only flew during the day. And I also created a playlist on my iPhone called Turbulence Tunes. So when it became very turbulent, these were high energy rock and roll tunes that would take my mind off what was going on. So I adapted. I'm a germ freak, right? But it hasn't prevented me from traveling all over the world. And I've traveled to third world countries. I just take a lot of hand sanitizer with me. So again, I'm afraid, but I go do it anyways.
Yeah, I think that's the key, is you just work through your fear. And I think there's some of us that are better at it than others. It's really a situation that once you go through something once, it's something that sits in your brain, and you go, okay, I did it last time, and this is what happened, so this is not as bad, or whatever else it is. My thing is running, and the hardest thing I ever did from a running perspective is run my first Boston Marathon, because it's June. It was 88 degrees ambient, and it was hot as blazes. And that was the hardest thing physically I've ever done. And so
I ran a Chicago Marathon in 84. I feel your pain. That was the last time I ever ran.
Well, I still run. Okay. I've done 14.
Wow, that's impressive.
So anyway, I mean, it's just like, okay, it just goes through your mind at that point. Okay, you made it through that time. This is not as bad. Just go. And, that's what can go through your mind. So,
and I think a lot of people think of these, these horrible scenarios. Of course, we make it in our mind never happen. I don't know who said it, but everything you want is on the other side of fear. And again, I think we have to give people permission that it's okay to be afraid and do it anyways. People think they have to conquer their fear first before they take action, and I think that's just silly.
Yeah, just take action. All right, in the last couple minutes together, I want to talk about the worksheet, which you can also get free on Barry's site, and it's also as part of the book. So it's a 20-step process, on how to execute change. So just work through the worksheet. How long does it normally take to do, and that type of thing?
Well, it's again, I think you can work through the first part in 15 minutes. What I ask people to do is go through the first part and then go through, then take a break. And tomorrow, go back and do your answers again or review your answers. It's really funny because when I was first putting together this worksheet, of course, I wanted to test it on a bunch of people. And I brought it to my wife, Sarah, and I said, Sarah, I'm working on a new book about change. There's a worksheet. Could you fill it out? And the first question is, what change do you want to make? And she looks at it and she says, I don't want to make any changes. I don't have to fill out this worksheet. So again, I think you take 15 minutes to fill it out the first day. Then I say take a break and review it and go through your first 10 answers again and then move on. Because I want people to know that they're really on the right path and they're not filling out the worksheet just to put down some answer. It really should be something they really want to change.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just doing it as an exercise because somebody's making you do it, nobody wins, including yourself.
Yeah, and there's parts where you need to get feedback from your mentor or your accountability coach, right? There's parts where you have to take a break and give yourself a reward. Maybe it's French fries, or go for a run or something like that. But again, this is something I think that happens slowly and you progress along. And people always talk about the big changes they made in their lives. It really was a series of very small changes that really got them where they wanted to go.
Cool. Very good. Okay, any final thoughts?
No, Ruth, I appreciate everything you do, and thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, my pleasure. All right, I'm speaking with Barry Moltz, whose book called Change Masters: How to Actually Make Changes You Already Know You need to make. Sorry, Barry. It's free on his website, courtesy of AT&T. Go to barrymoltz.com, BarryMoltz.com. Barry, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for joining us. Choose one thing you discovered and implement it in your business. These ideas, tactics, and strategies help you make more money, have more free time, and give back. If you like today's program, spread the word. Please review this podcast on any device you're listening to it on. Help a fellow contractor make more money, too. For comments or questions, call me at 770-729-0258 or email Ruth King at hvacchannel.tv. Thanks for listening. Have a great and profitable day.